There comes a moment when the weight of life feels unbearable, when you think you can't face another sunrise. And it's exactly at that breaking point that everything can change. Have you ever truly felt like giving up? That deep exhaustion where your mind whispers, "I can't do this anymore. It's over." Maybe you're struggling to keep your family afloat. Maybe you've been building something from nothing and it's just not working. Maybe you're tired of fighting every single day and seeing nothing move. And then that quiet voice says, "Let it go. It's not worth it. You were never meant for this." But today, I want to share something that might shift the way you see your struggle. There's a single word in Japan, a word that has saved countless people from falling apart, an expression that helped rebuild a broken nation from ashes, a word that turns suffering into strength. That word is Ganbaru. Before you think it's just another piece of ancient philosophy, hear me out. I'm going to tell you the story of a young man named Hiroshi, a quiet soul who lived in the Japanese countryside right after World War II. He had no wealth, barely any food, and almost no hope. But he possessed something that most people abandon at the first sign of pain, and that single thing transformed his entire life. Before we continue, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share in the comments, what's your biggest battle right now? What's been pushing you to the edge? You're not alone. Thank you for being here. Now, let's return to the story. Chapter 1. Riku's Story. Japan, 1947. 2 years after the end of World War II. The country lay in ruins, literally shattered, entire cities reduced to dust, the economy broken, millions dead, and those who survived were starving. Families clung to life by a thread. In the midst of all this, there lived a 19-year-old boy named Riku. He lived in a quiet village, deep in the Japanese countryside, far from the cities, far from help. With him were his mother, 2 younger brothers, and his grandmother. His father had fallen in the war. Now, he was the man of the house. But how do you carry that title when you have nothing? No food, no money, no future. Every morning, Riku woke up with an empty stomach and the weight of survival pressing on his chest. He saw his mother silently wipe her tears when she thought no one was looking. He heard his little brothers ask for rice that didn't exist, and inside him, something broke. I should be able to care for them, he thought. But I can't. I'm weak. Riku was disciplined. He rose with the first light, worked the barren fields, took whatever labor he could find. But no matter how hard he tried, it was never enough. Reality was merciless, and hope was dying slowly. Then came that day. It was early morning, the air sharp and freezing. Riku walked miles to a nearby farm, hoping for work. When he arrived, the owner glanced at him and sighed. "I'm sorry, boy. I can barely feed the men I already have." Riku nodded, his throat tight. He walked home through the cold, hands trembling, heart hollow. When he reached his small wooden house, he sat down on the dirt outside the door. The sky was grey, heavy, unkind, and he cried, not out of sadness, but out of surrender. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered. "I tried. I really did." But there's no way he sat there, empty, until someone appeared. An older man, dressed simply, hands rough from years of work. He stopped beside Riku and asked, "Are you all right, son?" Riku quickly wiped his tears. "Yes, sir. I'm just tired." The man gave a knowing smile, small but full of wisdom. Tired or defeated? Riku said nothing. Are you looking for work? The old man continued. I am, but no one is hiring. I am, the man replied calmly. Riku looked up, unsure if he'd heard correctly. You are? For what kind of work? I run a small carpentry shop in the next town, said the man. It's modest, but I need an extra pair of hands. I can't pay much, but you'll eat, and you'll learn something real. A faint spark flickered in Riku's chest. Hope. I'll take it, sir. Anything. The man reached out his hand. My name is Hayato. You start tomorrow. The next morning, Riku arrived at Master Hayato's workshop before sunrise. It was a humble place. Old tools, wooden scent, faint smoke from a tea kettle. Hayato was already there, working in silence. Good morning, Master Hayato. Good morning, Riku. Ready to begin? Yes, sir. And so it began. The first few days were brutal. Riku's hands cracked and bled. His muscles ached. His body protested every movement. But he didn't complain. He needed this. He needed to prove to himself that he could still fight. Hayato watched him quietly. Every gesture, every mistake, every small victory. After a week, as they sipped warm tea beside the workshop door, Hayato spoke. Riku, do you know the word Ganbaru? Riku shook his head. No, master. It's an old word, Hayato said. It means to persist, to give your best, to keep moving forward, even when the world tells you to stop. Riku listened, uncertain, but something in the old man's tone anchored deep inside him. You know, Riku, Hayato continued, after the war, many of us lost everything. I lost my home, my family, my trade. I had nothing left. Riku looked up, surprised. But I chose Ganbaru, Hayato said. One day at a time, one board at a time, one nail at a time. And now here I am, not rich but standing on my own 2 feet again. Riku hesitated. But what about when you feel like you can't take it anymore? Hayato smiled gently. That's exactly when you need Ganbaru most. Because it's in pain, Riku, not comfort, that we grow. Chapter 2. The Transformation. Riku began to understand. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by piece. There were mornings he could barely lift his arms. His palms were blistered, his back stiff. But he remembered Ganbaru. There were days when the work was repetitive, silent, lonely. But he remembered Ganbaru. There were nights when exhaustion made him want to quit, when hunger blurred his thoughts. But he remembered Ganbaru. And then, something changed. His hands, once bleeding, began to harden. His movements grew fluid. He started to feel the rhythm of the wood, to respect its texture, its scent, its patience. And most importantly, he began to believe again. Not in miracles, but in himself. One nail at a time, one sunrise after another, Riku rebuilt not just wood, but his own spirit. Hayato watched in quiet pride. You're learning, Riku, he said one evening. Not just carpentry, but who you really are. But the real test was yet to come. 6 months later, Hayato fell ill. Nothing fatal, but he had to rest for weeks. The shop is yours for now, he told Riku. Can you handle it? Riku froze. I'm not sure I can, master. You can, Hayato said firmly. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't have asked. So Riku stayed, alone, responsible for orders, for quality, for clients, for everything, and the pressure was crushing. Then came the hardest job, a large custom table for an important customer, the kind of work that could make or break the shop's name. Riku worked through sleepless nights. He made mistakes, fixed them, made new ones. His hands trembled, his mind doubted. One dawn, staring at the unfinished table, he whispered, "I can't do this. I'll disappoint him. I'll lose everything." He sank to the floor, head in his hands. Then he remembered. "It's in pain, Riku, that we grow." He stood up, took a slow breath, and returned to his work. Days passed. The table wasn't perfect, but it was honest. It held his care, his sweat, his Ganbaru. When the client arrived, he ran his hand along the polished surface. The wood gleamed under morning light. He tested its balance, smiled, and said, "This is remarkable craftsmanship." "Who made this?" Riku, shy but proud, said softly, "I did, sir." "You?" The man looked surprised. "So young, yet so precise. Excellent work. I'll recommend you to everyone I know." When the client left, Riku stood alone in the silent workshop. And for the second time in his life, he cried. But this time, it wasn't from despair. It was from victory. Hayato returned weeks later, fully recovered. When he saw the finished work, he nodded with deep pride. "You did it, Riku. I did it because of you, master." "Because of Ganbaru." Hayato smiled. "No, boy. You did it because of you. I only showed you the path. You chose to walk it over time. Riku's skills grew. The workshop gained more clients. He brought home food. His brothers smiled again. His mother laughed again. His grandmother sang softly as she cooked. Riku didn't become wealthy, but he didn't need to. He had found something far greater than money: dignity, purpose, and faith in his own strength. He understood now. No matter what life brought, he could endure it, because he had Ganbaru. Chapter 3. The science behind Ganbaru. You might be thinking, nice story, but does this really work in real life? It does, and science proves it. Modern research shows that the ability to keep going in the face of difficulty is directly tied to what psychologists call a growth mindset. People with this mindset believe their skills can be developed through effort and practice. And do you know what happens as a result? They achieve things most would call impossible. One neuroscientist explained it perfectly. When we face adversity and choose to persist, the brain forms new neural pathways. We literally rewire ourselves to become stronger. In other words, pain isn't the end. It's the beginning of transformation. But there's a detail many forget. Not all persistence works. Some people keep pushing in the wrong way, repeating the same failing strategy until frustration breaks them. That's not Ganbaru. Ganbaru isn't stubbornness. It's resilience. The intelligence to adapt, to move forward, to adjust without surrendering your purpose. It's about remembering why you started and staying loyal to that reason when everything else collapses. Chapter 4. Your Ganbaru moment. Now, think about your own life. What battle are you fighting right now? Maybe you're trying to support your family. Maybe you're building a business from nothing. Maybe you're studying late nights to change your future. Or maybe you're simply trying to survive another day. And it's hard, I know. There are mornings when you wake up and whisper, "I can't take this anymore." Days when the numbers don't add up, the progress stalls, and no one seems to believe in you. Moments when quitting feels easier than breathing. But remember Riku, that 19-year-old boy after the war who had nothing. No wealth, no security, no future. And yet he didn't give up, because he learned one timeless truth. Pain is part of the process. There is no growth without struggle. There is no transformation without resistance. When you stop running from pain and start using it as fuel, everything shifts. You stop being a victim and become the author of your story. Ganbaru isn't about being a superhero. It's not about never feeling afraid, tired, or hopeless. It's about feeling all of that and still moving. It's about waking up after a terrible day and trying again. Taking one more step even when your legs tremble. Believing that somehow, in the end, it will be worth it. And it will be worth it. Maybe not how you expect, maybe not when you wish, but always in who you become. Riku never became rich or famous, but he rebuilt his family's life. He became a man of dignity and left behind quiet strength, a legacy carved in effort, not fame. And you? What legacy will you leave? Will you be remembered as someone who surrendered at the first wall, or as someone who kept fighting despite the storm? Let me tell you something few people ever admit about success. Do you know how many times Riku thought about quitting before he met Master Hayato? Every single day. And after he met him? Still, every single day. The difference wasn't that the urge disappeared. It never does. The difference was that he learned to walk with it, to keep going despite it. That's the truth no one tells you about fulfillment, purpose, or victory. It's not about erasing fear. It's about acting through fear. Not about avoiding pain. It's about transforming pain into strength, not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about making the present moment count. So when you reach your limit, when the world feels impossible and the weight feels too heavy, remember Ganbaru. Remember Riku, the boy who had nothing but one unshakable choice, the decision not to give up. And that choice changed everything. Yours can too. Not tomorrow, not next week, but the very moment you choose to persist. Because in the end, success isn't measured by how many times you fall, but by how many times you rise. If this message touched something inside you, subscribe to the channel and join our journey of discipline and transformation. Leave a like and comment below with a single word. Ganbaru. When you write it, you make a silent promise to yourself, a commitment to endure, to adapt, and to keep going. And one more invitation. If you enjoy lessons that blend psychology and philosophy, check out my new channel linked in the description. It's where we go even deeper into the art of the disciplined mind. Thank you for staying until the end. Remember, your story is still being written, and it will not end with giving up.